draw. But in a certain sense, I don't care about that so much. In a mono red mirror, sometimes being on the draw can be advantageous.
Yeah, it really depends on how these two players draw against one another, and not just being on the draw, but you know, if one player is on the play and they get out a little bit ahead and they have a bunch of light up the stages that let them capitalize on the fact that they got to start dealing damage first, they can just run away with a game. Whereas if you're on the draw and having to take a more defensive posture, it can be a little difficult enabling some of your card advantage engines.
So Frank Skarren started this weekend for 16th place on our leaderboard. He did have, that will be 2 buys, just barely for the individuals, but if he wins this, already with the finals appearance, that's 20 points. 25 will move him up into the conversation. At 20, he's sitting in about 7th place. 25, now he's really up with the leaders. He'll be up with Dylan Donegan, Matthew Dilks, and Austin Collins.
Right, and he's just such a consistent player. Every time Skarren shows up to one of our events, it feels like he's always making such deep runs, and it's not surprising at all to see him making the finals here.
For the team of Minor, Ambrosio, and Crespo Jr., a kind of new crew here for the 3 of them. I know Chris Minor from the South Carolina area.
And 4-color loam is not the kind of deck that you pick as a meta call. That's something that you have obviously been playing for a very long time, and you know your matchups, and that's why we see him succeeding this weekend. And with Death and Taxes being our second biggest deck here in Day 2 in our team event, at least in the Legacy seat, you know that Chris Minor has faced this at least one other time in the tournament.
Yeah, it is so kind of the backstory on this. Right now, the team of Ambrosio and Crespo Jr., both from the New York City area. And yeah, picking up a 3rd from out of state there with Chris Minor. He normally plays with a team, had a good finish with Charlotte Lewis's team a couple opens ago. Currently now playing with them, and a great finish here, looking to get that first trophy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They are in prime position. The matchups are in their favor. They're on the draw, which doesn't feel particularly great, but the matchups where that would theoretically hurt them the most can end up being so swingy based on the cards in the matchup itself that it's hard to feel like that they're even dogs here.
Yeah. That said, all the matchups look good, but their opponents are pretty intimidating here.
Yeah, it's hard to say if their opponents are better than the matchups.
Yeah. And that would be the concern. As we get ready here for the beginning of our finals, it's mono red mirror. So key card in mono red mirrors, I want to go think, Goblin Chain Whirler is the one that sticks out to me, is the one I'd want to see each game. Just pound for pound, it's the best card here. What else do you think is going to be important?
Experimental Frenzy is going to be incredible, assuming the game goes along. If either player has a sort of creature-heavy draw, then the opponent is going to be priced into trading their burn spells for their creatures, as every time a creature attacks, it's just a recurring source of damage. And that will just put both players to having a bunch of lands, and Experimental Frenzy is the best way to capitalize on having a glut of lands left over.
Fanatical Firebrand swing-ins can be met with a shock on Skarren's side. And back over to Frank. Runaway Steamkin as a 1/1. So shock kind of clearing the way for the Steamkin. We'll see if he can survive to the untap with it.
Right, and this is what makes a lot of sense. Runaway Steamkin is one of the cards that can just, all jokes aside, run away with the match, because if it becomes a 4/4, it outgrows all of the lightning strikes in the deck.
Now, I do want to talk about some differences in their lists. So for Freddy's list, it is the 19 Mountain version with just with a lot of copies of with 2 copies of Skewer the Critics, 2 copies of Risk Factor, so it's lower to the ground. For Frank's list, he has 2 more lands, so 21 Mountain decks, so significantly different. No copies of Skewer, no copies of Risk Factor, but a full 4 Experimental Frenzy.
And that's going to benefit Skarren in this matchup, assuming that he's able to just get time to get these engines online. Cards like Risk Factor are frightening, but
yeah,
if you untap with an Experimental Frenzy, that's worth so much more than the 3 cards that you'll get from a Risk Factor.
However, going back to the game, Experimental Frenzy is not going to matter if Frank can't get up to 4 lands. So he has the Steamkin on 2, but it's missed lands for 2 turns. It was Viashino Pyromancer and then another Steamkin, and that's going to be really hard as Crespo, for consecutive turns, has cast Goblin Chain Whirlers, each of them eating a creature.
And this just puts Crespo so far ahead. He's now up on cards. He's up on the battlefield. Skarren needs to claw back into this game.
Yeah, Skarren does find the third land. He passes. Now, an answer here would have been his own Chain Whirler. Doesn't have that. But maybe some Lightning Strikes, some way to answer these can help him be back.
The big thing that Skarren wants here is just to get these Goblin Chain Whirlers off the battlefield so he can play a bit of damage control. Skarren knows that his cards are more powerful pound for pound if the game can go long, so he just needs to find a way to make that happen.
Right now, back on Freddy Crespo's side. 2 Chain Whirlers in hand, and in play rather, and 5 cards in hand. A lot to work with. Here's a Gitu Lava Runner. It's just a 1/2 right now, but if he has another instant, it will gain haste. And Wizard's Lightning is going to do it. That's upstairs. Counts. Yeah, Frank down to 12, and this attack is for 8. It's going to demand an answer.
Yeah, and, you know, the way the matchup works, even those dynamics aside, there's a point where Crespo's this far ahead. He knows that he's in the driver's seat. He just needs to apply pressure here. So
Wizard's Lightning down to 12. A swing for 5 down to 7. Can Frank recover? He's going to have to clear the board. On 3 mana, his own Goblin Chain Whirler. Now, unlike Freddy's, it doesn't take anything down. It's just a 3/3.
No, and this is not good. This is not good for Skarren.
Yeah, I mean, there's a swing coming up. Frank would have to decide, I guess, if you even give him the option whether he wants to trade or take 3.
You probably just have to take the trade here. At that point, you're pretty happy building a pseudo Wizard's Lightning that pinged your opponent as well. And there may even be a point where we see this risk factor hanging out in Crespo's hand. If Crespo just attacks with both creatures.
Even with a trade, Frank would be at 5. Risk factor, well, I guess you don't really care which mode Frank picks. They're both going to be really good.
Exactly. And, you know, if you try to just eat the Lava Runner for free, all of a sudden Skarren's at 4 and just doesn't have a choice with risk factor anymore.
So here is the swing. Tough choice here on Frank's side. And he decides he just can't accept the trade, so he'll go to 4. Takes the free block, and yeah, you're right, risk factor has 1 mode now. These red decks don't gain any life. And there is in his hand. There's also a Viashino Pyromaster in hand, so that's 2 more. With a resolved risk factor, I just don't think it's going to take very long for him to find the last 2 points.
Yeah, it looks like he has Mountain, risk factor, Experimental Frenzy.
And Pyromaster.
And yes. So he's a little bit short, but this risk factor is going to do so much here.
Well, this is an easy one, risk factor. It'll be a draw 3. Yeah, and it's just with that and the 3 more cards it supplies, you know, you're just going to find the burn.
And Crespo's just up so many resources here. Those Goblin Chain Whirlers both took out creatures. We saw this draw 3 in the form of risk factor.
Yeah. Fanatical Firebrand off of 4th Mountain, post risk factor for Freddy. Now, can't swing as we're in the 2nd main phase. However, that's 1 more point of damage. Frank already at a virtual 3. If Freddy found a Lightning Strike, then we are headed to game 2. And there it is, 3 damage. Firebrand makes for Freddy Crespo with the win here. Struggled a bit with his deck last round, picked up a loss, but his teammates came through. No such problems here. He is the first game win in our finals.
Oh, yeah, and that was one where Skarren missed a land drop, and Crespo was able to just punish him for a couple of early plays with Goblin Chain Whirler.
So looking at the sideboard, I want to go back to the land disparity between the 2 decks. Frank is a 21 mountain deck. Freddy is a 19 mountain deck. Now, normally you'll see similar sideboarding in a mirror match, but because of that, I really feel like the players can take different strategies here.
Yeah, and we can see that reflected in how different their sideboards are, right? They have these lava coils and fight with fires, and other than that, their lists are pretty different, all things considered.
Yeah, so looking at Frank's side, right, he's the bigger deck. He'll hit his land drops more consistently. So I want to start with the 4 frenzies in his main deck. I don't think those are going anywhere.
I agree.
Okay, so we do that, but now I want to look at other cards. So Lava Coil, Fight with Fire, Treasure Map, Direfleet Daredevil, maybe even Fiery Cannonade. Can Frank go a all-removal, go-big strategy here?
So a lot of what Frank's probably going to be trying to do is try to just actually be able to answer the creatures that Crespo puts on the battlefield and say, all right, if you hit 20 points of burn, you hit 20 points of burn, but I'm going to grind you out. That's going to involve cards like Treasure Map, like Direfleet Daredevil. You could look at Lava Coil. You're probably not very interested in Fight with Fire because it is very mana hungry. Sure. But Lava Coil in particular is something that's just a good way to trade with a Goblin Chain Whirler, for example, and you're looking to just board out cards that line up poorly against Goblin Chain Whirler. Your Fanatical Firebrands are kind of embarrassing most of the time, for example.
Pyromancer, even to a certain level, I could see moving away from that card on Frank's side.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about from Freddy's side. If he knows he's down on mana, and he knows the open sideboard. Does he still go big? I mean, he can do the same thing, right? He can try to imitate Frank's deck. He'll do it a little worse because of his lands. He could board in a third Frenzy. He could board in the 4 Lava Coils. But that's about where it stops. You know, he doesn't have a Direfleet Daredevil. He doesn't have a Treasure Map. He has these other cards like Act of Treason that he's boarded in for different matchups. But he also has Legion Warboss, which it's a 2/2 for 3, so it's going to die to removal pretty easily here. I'm just wondering what his options are. If he goes big, he's going to be disadvantaged.
Yeah, the big thing that Freddy's going to be trying to do is honestly just kill Skarren. You may end up seeing him bring in something to those Lava Coils that we've mentioned. Experimental Frenzy is going to be strong. Crespo is likely just looking to shave some number of his Fanatical Firebrands because that card is so weak in the matchup, and it also is a huge liability against Goblin Chainwhirler. It may be a case where he's trying to get those out of his deck more than it is he's trying to put anything in his deck.
I could even see keeping the Firebrands in, just at the point of
Kill him.
Yeah, just kill, you know.
Yep.
Don't play Frank's game.
Yep, if those are just shocks, that's fine.
So those of you still watching us on Twitch, it's been quite the weekend here. Glad to have you subscribing to our channel. You can join us in the feature match area with our Twitch subscription program. We'd love it if you could subscribe. Twitch, you get custom emoticons for our channel. You also get to help us decide the quarterfinals. That's how we started with Frank Skarren's team today. You guys voted those ones into the top 8. So twitch.tv/SCGTour.
Even before I worked here, that's what ended up making me subscribe.
Just the vote?
Yeah. I know what magic I want to see.
And this number 1 seed team, Rubin, Ingram, and Skarren. Not very many losses in the Swiss.
Yeah, they've had a fairly dominating performance this week, in all things considered. They were X1-1, if memory serves.
Yeah, they were 12-2 and drew the last round.
That's
so
right.
2 losses. The only team with that number. And then some close wins actually in the top 8. Came down to a Game 3. Pete Ingram. Actually, both times coming through in the clutch, right? He had a Game 3 against Jim Davis to send him to the semifinals. And closed Game 3 win against Zan Sayed to send them to the finals. He has really been coming through in the clutch.
Yeah, and Ingram has been really just... Every one of his matches in this top 8 have kind of been upsets, right? You play this Tron deck because it's good against Izzet Phoenix, and he beat Jim Davis anyway. And then the following round, it was against War Prison, which is also very favored against Izzet Phoenix, but Peter beat him anyway.
Now, both Frank and Steve Rubin are 1-1 here in the top 8. Frank helped carry his team to victory in the semifinals. Steve had the win in the quarterfinals. And right now, Steve with the puts a game win on the side for their team, Death and Taxes. He takes Game 1 over Chris Miner.
And this is a situation where a lot of the plan of the 4-color loam deck is to kind of lean on the Wasteland side of things, the mana denial and all of that, trying to turn off the opponent from even playing the game of Magic. But if Death and Taxes just draws a ton of basics or has an early Aether Vial that Loam doesn't have a good answer for, it's very possible that a Mother of Runes just runs away with the game.
Ambrosio and Ingram, that third match, they are still on Game 1. Now, sometimes in mono red mirrors, when players go big out of the sideboard, you'll actually see mono red players choose the draw. Because of Goblin Chainwhirler being so powerful on 3, I'm not sure that Frank's going to take that kind of line here.
Right, that's one where you also know that Crespo is trying to be the aggressor. If you think both players are trying to go big, that's a much more reasonable take because you want to have more removal spells than your opponent. But if you don't think your opponent cares about removal and is going under you anyway, it's much more a situation where Skarren is trying to take the draw away from Crespo than it is that he actually wants to be ahead.
Yeah, if enough of his cards are just better pound for pound, he doesn't need the extra card. Just if the game goes long, he'll get that advantage anyway.
Yes, exactly.
See, no 1-drop from Frank, which is kind of what we expected. No 1-drop from Freddy either, however. Last game was those missed lands that hurt Frank. And it is Runaway Steamkin. This is the kind of thing you expect it to get tagged. It does. It's shock.
Yeah, you just got to go through the motions with that. The card's so good if it ends up not getting checked that you kind of just have to make your opponent have it.
Steamkin back from Crespo. It's exposed here if there's a turn 3 Chainwhirler on Skarren's side. but far weaker. It's Lava Coil and again a missed third land drop from Frank.
This is not good when you're trying to take a more controlling posture in a match.
You need those land drops. And it's, you see now Legion War Boss swinging in. It's a big win. Frank, in on the deck list, acknowledged this, right? He has 21 lands to Freddy's 19, but it just hasn't panned out that way in either game.
Right, and this is the nice thing about Legion War Boss is we just saw a must-answer threat into a must-answer threat, and since Skarren didn't have an instant speed answer to the Runaway Steamkin, he's now just kind of a turn behind, and this Goblin token's getting in free damage for Crespo.
Now, those sideboard Lava Coils, 2 of them have come through big, but if you want to talk about sideboard, the sideboard Legion War Bosses out of Freddy Crespo coming in pretty big here, too, as he plays a second one. We'll get another Goblin token, crashes in for 2. So each of these trades is netting Freddy a 1/1.
Exactly, and if Skarren can't pick up something like Goblin Chainwhirler to get these under control, this damage is going to add up very quickly.
And you're right, Chainwhirler can clean all of this up. Right? It's a third Lava Coil from Frank.
He has a
Get-To
plan.
Lava Runner. Yeah, the Lava Runner... Fancy that, 3 Lava Coils. It's a 2/2, and he's leaving it back as a blocker. So despite the missed land drops for 2 turns, right now, Frank is okay.
Yep, Skarren's just trying to go long. 17 is, all things considered, a pretty comfortable life total. And Crespo doesn't really want to be spending a burn spell on this Lava Runner.
Yeah. Now, a swing in here, this has got to be a Chain Whirler, right?
Do you hear it?
Yeah.
I can hear the clanking of the chains.
1 damage, and you just point say 1 damage on the Lava Runner. It's like, yeah, and... there it is. Chain Whirler finishes it off. Frank down to 15.
Gotta make him have it. You can't just not block there.
I mean, you can.
It is legal.
Yeah.
But there's a spot where, what are you doing with your creature if you're not attacking and not blocking?
Right. If your goal is to make Chain Whirler a dead card, that's just not going to happen. It's too good of a card for that. Now, this is an interesting one. We were talking about whether or not Frank would go full-on control. Fight with Fire out of the sideboard. That was the one we were unsure of. It looks like it has come in as it answers the Chain Whirler.
Right, and if you just have a read that your opponent's going to have a ton of creatures, this is a way to not die.
And I do like this, right? It's all hands on deck for removal spells for Frank. We're just seeing every removal spell in his 75.
That's true, but there is an issue here where all of Crespo's cards are being worth damage, even though they're dying.
Yeah, 2 more Pyromancers should send Frank down to 10. Now, if he has a Chain Whirler of his own, hey, we did it.
You're right. That's absolutely true. But even then, Crespo's still just up 10 points in these exchanges.
And this was a light up the stage main phase from Frank, and it could not have gone worse. Was hoping to find a land, something to clean up. He doesn't find that, and he finds 2 cards he really just has no time for. It's Treasure Map and Experimental Frenzy. He's down to 5 here. They're both exiled, and he's just not going to cast either.
Exactly. This is a spot where Skarren just got the top 2 cards off of his deck to hopefully find a Chain Whirler, but Crespo missing a land drop and passing is so scary for Skarren. Okay. So this is a way that he could end up getting back into this game. We had mentioned last turn that Goblin Chain Whirler was exactly what Skarren needed, and now he's actually getting the opportunity to just mop up the battlefield a little bit.
So the top deck Chain Whirler keeps him alive.
Oh, that's so much burning Crespo's hand.
Yeah, okay, and here's Lightning Strike, Frank to 2. There's just... I mean, he may not have it. They're Lava Coils. I think most of them are. Yeah, here's a Lava Coil. He doesn't have it yet. But Frank's at 2. The problem is there's just so many live draws.
He gets to untap.
He gets untap. He's still going. Now, what are we looking at? Get to Lava Runner is a potentially game-winning play. Shock, Wizard's Lightning, Risk Factor Lightning Strike, Viashino Pyromancer, Skewer. All of them are lethal. It's like about 20 outs in Freddy's deck.
Do you like the movie Princess Bride?
I haven't seen it for a while. I like it.
Skarren's only mostly dead. Big difference between being dead and mostly dead.
Now here's Experimental Frenzy from Frank.
And
when does mostly dead turn into dead? Not yet.
Mostly
Another
dead.
turn.
I've taken 20 years off of your life. How do you feel?
Here is Gitu Lava Runner from Frank. And a land. Tracking that says yes, he's played his land this turn. Now, is he going to swing with the Lava Runner is an interesting question to me. He does.
Top card's probably a light up the stage that he's trying to enable.
It could be. I mean, the other thing is, like, he just needs damage, right? Because Freddy has so many live draws. Now, the problem is when you don't leave it back for a blocker, this kills you, and that's going to do it. You know, if he leaves back the Lava Runner, he doesn't die to that play, but I understand the strategy. I agree with the strategy.
I agree. You have to be able to close the game. You have to reduce the number of draws that Crespo has there.
Right. By swinging, he gave Freddy 4 more outs, but like you gotta just start cutting off those outs. He's at 2, and so Freddie Crespo Jr. is your first match winner, 2-0 in this mono red mirror.
And this is kind of what we expected from this red mirror. It's fast. This is why people play the deck, and the mirrors in particular. Neither player is very good at stopping damage.
So we are going to move over to the legacy table, where Frank's team has had some better fortunes. Teammate Steve Rubin did win the first game with Death and Taxes over Chris Minor as they start game 2, Chris Minor on the play. Remember, if Chris can pull off the comeback here, they will be the champions. They already have that match win.
Right, and, you know, we do see one of the main card advantages from the Loam deck in Minor's hand right now. We see Dark Confidant, which is going to force something on Rubin's side, and then we also see a Grove of the Burnwillows, which is half of the Punishing Fire Grove combo, which is so strong against Death and Taxes.
Now, Steve does have a turn 1 Aether Vial, which he charges up to 1. You know, he eventually can keep the Punishing Fire at bay, right? Mother of Runes can eventually dies to it, but it takes a lot of turns and a lot of mana.
Honestly, it only takes 2. You end at the end of Steve's turn, you target the Mother of Runes with the Punishing Fire, untap, get back the fire, finish off the Mother of Runes.
Maybe Steve is better served by trying to break that up by Wasteland. He does have 1 in his hand. He hasn't seen Grove of the Burnwillows just yet. It's going to be Wasteland. He'll go straight for the Savannah there. I'm correct, it's a scrubland there. Either way, Chris down to just a green source. Plays a second Dark Confidant and Mox Diamond.
Mox Diamond, one of the ways that this deck just gets ahead on mana. It's very mana hungry, as it's frequently just a Chalice of the Void deck that doesn't play very many 1-drops in order to make its Chalice of the Voids not backfire. And when you have all these 2s, being able to skip up the curve like this in terms of mana development is huge.
The discard is Maze of Ith. Now, Chris is going to swing with Dark Confidant. It would offer a trade with the Mother of Runes here, which I'm pretty sure Chris would be happy if that happens.
Absolutely. Big fan of the way that Minor is not exposing his Grove of the Burnwillows here that he has with his Punishing Fire. He wants to cast the Punishing Fire and then play the Grove to just instantly get back the Punishing Fire before Rubin gets to do anything with a Wasteland against it.
Now, it's going to be trickier. End step there saw Steve Rubin Vial in Mother of Runes, and now he untaps with it, so she is no longer summoning sick. That tap ability will protect the first Punishing Fire.
And this is an awkward situation where, on one hand, it'll take Minor a while to deal with this Mother of Runes, but Rubin really doesn't want to give Minor very much time. There's a bunch of Dark Confidant. There's a bunch of cards being drawn by these Dark Confidants.
2 Dark Confidant triggers here, so it's Sylvan Library. And a Cinder Vines here. So taking 4 off the Dark Confidant triggers, but he is going to draw them.
Cinder Vines is just one of the best ways to be able to deal with things like Batterskull.
Now some other good news. Now a win for game 1 of Joseph Ambrosio, his teammate.
Minor getting to untap with Dark Confidants multiple times has got to feel like a huge victory. Any deck that's playing Dark Confidant is very interested in being up several cards. And now we see Minor developing the Sylvan Library on the battlefield with the intent of basically setting up his draws to where he doesn't let these Dark Confidants kill him. He's going to try and stack his deck in such a way that these Dark Confidants are flipping the least painful things possible.
Mother of Runes, a second one from Steve Rubin.
This is a big draw. This is a way that Rubin can actually beat the Grove Punishing Fire combo, because now Minor would have to get back multiple Punishing Fires in the same turn cycle.
Yeah, this is getting, it means just the mana tax on it, right? So to start removing creatures with Punishing Fire, Grove of the Burnwillows, you're going to need to Punishing Fire again, and then do it again next turn. But now they cost 3 and 4 once you factor in the mana from getting them back with Grove. Like, it's just
It's a
It's
lot.
possible.
And there's even the point where now that there's a Violon too and a Caracas, how do you ever kill this Thalia?
Yeah, that seems really difficult. Now, 2 free cards here for Chris. Both were lands off that Dark Confidant, and now he's Sylvan Libraries. He needs to be careful with his life total on all these extra drawing. Normally you see people take 4 off Sylvan Library, but the way the game is shaping up with these 2 Dark Confidants, I'm not sure he actually wants to do that.
Yeah, the quantity of cards he has is not so much the issue as the fact that he just needs to actually play all of his spells.
Now, what I do like is this kind of reminds me of Sensei's Divining Top back when it was legal in Legacy. You can set it up so the Dark Confidants keep revealing lands here.
Is that a copy of Queen Marchesa?
Well, he has one on the sideboard. So Queen Marchesa, this is from Conspiracy. 3/3 Death Touch Haste for 4. When enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent is the Monarch, you get an Assassin with Death Touch and Haste. So she's all about becoming the Monarch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just a great grindy option. You're either getting a random card every turn, or you're getting a pretty valuable creature every turn against another creature strategy.
Now, here is a great way around Mother of Runes. Liliana the Veil from Chris Miner, -2. Steve has to sacrifice a creature. No protection is going to stop that. And one of the Mother Runes is gone in a very clean exchange.
Right, and this is a spot where Miner's going to be pretty happy to just chump block with one of his Dark Confidants if Rubin just goes in with the Thalia here.
And it's just so much value, right? This 4-color loam deck, look at the cards Chris has played. Sylvan Library, 2 Dark Confidants, Liliana of the Veil. He's just burying Steven cards right now.
Exactly. And that's something that we saw Rubin do the same thing to Tan and Grace earlier with Palace Jailer and the Monarch.
Yeah.
Or becoming the Monarch. But on the other side of things, this is a lot.
So Thalia swings in, threatening the Liliana. Chris decides that Liliana is more important than his second Dark Confidant. So goes ahead and makes the chump block.
Right, and also there's a point where Miner knows that both of the cards on top of his library are spells because of Sylvan Library, and it's getting to a point where he knows he's up enough cards that he doesn't need 2 Dark Confidants to outgrind Rubin.
Yeah.
He needs to not randomly die in the middle of trying to cast his spells.
Takes 2 to draw life from the loam that turn, then draws off with using the Sylvan Library. Now, remember the previous turn, he actually picked up Barrenmoor, so he has this cycle land loam engine going if things ever really, truly get to the late game. Right now, he'll just discard the Barrenmoor to Liliana.
Ooh, and it took Steve Rubin's Caracas that basically turned that Barrenmoor into a wasteland.
Oh, he has a second Caracas. He still has a Caracas in play, but
Well,
you know, you got to start
when
somewhere.
you put it that way, it sounds less good.
Here is Cinder Vines from Chris Miner. This is another card off the sideboard. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, they take a damage, sacrifice it, basically do a Destructive Revelry, destroys an artifact or enchantment. I see plenty of artifacts on the board right here.
And this is just a step-by-step process for Miner where he's very slowly just trying to grind Steve Rubin's resources down. He's now starting to go after his Aether Vials, and then he's going to go after his mana, and eventually Rubin won't be able to play any spells and will be down several cards. Rubin needs to be able to apply pressure, and he's just not.
Yeah, we see here in Chris Miner's hand, it is a life from the loam, Queen Marchesa, Punishing Fire. He's got a 4th card. His land was tapped. Now, this is actually going to be interesting. With Liliana at 2, Thalia attacks. Chris has to decide between Dark Confidant and Liliana. Because that land was tapped, he can't Punishing Fire right here.
Correct.
That was actually a pretty big win for Steve. Otherwise, he probably would do it. It would tap the Mother of Runes.
Is that a Swords to Plowshares in hand? That would be so big.
Hold on. If it is, the Liliana's just gone. Both cards are gone.
No. In Miner's hand.
In Miner's hand. He does have 2 in the sideboard. That is possible.
Right, and it's very possible that since he knows Rubin has these Aether Vials, that he's just kind of low on Chalice of the Void in the matchup.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that those are in the sideboard because none of his lands actually make white mana. So it's just... The 4-color loam deck's really powerful. It's mana... I've often heard people say it really needs Mox Diamond every game.
Yeah.
But an attack, and now Chris decides that Liliana is worth less than the Dark Confidant. He actually lets the Planeswalker go here.
Right, and at this point, you when you see Rubin pitching things like extra Caracases, you don't really want to keep it around that much.
And now we have a fight. The fight was who could have more value plays, and Chris Miner was winning it by a lot. However, Karn, Scion of Urza for Steve Rubin is pretty good at fighting grindy matchups as well, as it goes up to 6.
I don't know about you, but I can't see Karn, Scion of Urza without hearing the arena animations anymore.
It's just every card. Every card.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I see the little alchemy circles and the sounds, and you just...
For me, the one's still Arclight Phoenix. When one comes back, just...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Top 2 cards are Council's Judgment and Mishra's Factory. Both actually pretty good. Chris gives him the Factory. It's something you can target with a Punishing Fire.
Absolutely, and it's also something that can just sort of be a creature, which Rubin's pretty interested in at this point.
So an untap from Chris. He Swords to Plowshares on end step, rather before the untap, the Mother of Runes. Draws a Wasteland. This is a nice sequence. And now with the Mother of Runes tapped, it might just be time for Punishing Fire to start going to work.
Right, and the Caracas shield is down as well for this Thalia, so we can see Miner Punishing Fire the Thalia, recur it with the Grove of the Burn Willows, Wasteland if he wants, he can also just hold it for this Factory, and then Punishing Fire the Mother of Runes as well.
He should be able to clean up this board. Now his hand has an Abrupt Decay in it as well, in case things go poorly. Also a Queen Marchesa, so, you know... Steve brought a Karn to the fair fight. I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Yeah.
That's just 4-card loam every card.
Yeah, there's so many things here that just... You wanted to talk about Jund Modern? This is Jund Legacy.
Punishing Fire first shoots down Thalia. Go for that one first so that the second one costs less. Go over the Burn Wills, gives Steve a life point, brings back Punishing Fire. Still has the mana left. Chris deciding, does he want to keep that Wasteland up or tap it? He wants to keep it up. Mox Diamond will be tapped. Here comes Punishing Fire again. This time it shoots down Mother of Runes.
Yeah, at this point he doesn't have another mana source to play and doesn't have any 1-drops in his hand, so you might as well just leave up the Wasteland so you don't give Rubin the opportunity to Wasteland it.
A swing in from Dark Confidant. Karn is down to 4. And not only, remember with that Wasteland, there is still a life from the Loam as well in Chris's hand, so that Wasteland's going to keep coming back.
Exactly, and... You know, Rubin's actually drawn a good number of non-basic lands. Drawing several Caracas here is going to be a big liability.
Yeah. Getting rid of those cards out of their utility seems fine. On mana, I mean, Steve does have some vials set up no matter... Even if he gets Wastelanded a bunch, he'll be able to put his cards into play. He just doesn't have that many cards.
Exactly.
It takes the vials to 3 and 4. And I actually like that. It's kind of in anticipation of the Wasteland, saying if he's going to go down to 2 lands, might as well have the vials at higher numbers.
Exactly. You know, you have these 2 planes, which can cast anything that costs less than 3. And you've already cast your Karn.
Resto and Aether Vial, the top 2. He'll get a third Aether Vial.
You know what? You can have it.
Steve with an Aether Vial here.
Miner very fast on that Cindervine's trigger, already reaching for it as Rubin has tapped the land.
So, Dark Confidant, revealing Verdant Catacombs.
Oof. Liliana coming off of the Sylvan Library. This is a big, big piece of the puzzle. This is just another grindy card that Rubin has to answer.
Yeah, Liliana of the Veil is another one here to go with the Marchesa. It looks like he's going to just cast Queen Marchesa. So, when he enters the battlefield, he becomes the Monarch. That's going to be an extra card. As if he didn't have enough already. You know, we haven't even gotten to casting Loam yet.
And this is setting up a 2 or 3 turn line where we know there's this Swords to Plowshares coming up for Miner. He knows the top cards of his deck are good, so he doesn't want to crack the Verdant Catacombs.
And I like this.
And he wants to kill this Karn now.
Yeah, so 5 damage coming at Karn. And if Steve activates the Factory, he can bring back Punishing Fire with Grove. Steve, of course, the Factory can pump itself, but that means it's not blocking. The Karn will be gone. Will be gone.
And now the process for Rubin, or the thought process, and stopped him there, was he thought, do I want to Rashad import this Badlands to try and turn off the Punishing Fire line, and then realized that he would be a mana short of the Mishra's Factory activation in that situation.
Activate a Factory for Rubin. So it's a 2/2. It can pump itself. There's still value to using a removal spell here. And Cinder Vines. Right, that's still on the table. It's an artifact. It's going to take it down. It's gone. 2 damage upstairs from the Cinder Vines. 5 damage at the Planeswalker. Steve to 16.
And things are just falling apart for Rubin here. He just doesn't have anything left. No gas in the tank. And we see Miner with kind of an embarrassment of resources.
Yeah, Miner, Steve, 2 planes. That's going to be running out of cards. We'll see if he wants to keep fighting this fight. Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and pick up the cards. So Chris Miner getting his team's 4th win. That's going to send them to Game 3. One more win on any of the tables will earn them the trophy.
They're so close.
So they're going to step up for their game. We're going to move over now to Modern, where Joseph Ambrosio is facing off against Pete Ingram. They're ready for Game 2.
This has been one of the defining matchups of this tournament. We've seen Tron versus Phoenix and Modern time and time again, and it feels like the whole tournament is coming down to this game.
Yeah, now, I mean, Pete Ingram has shown in the clutch here he has not dropped a game for his team.
Well, I see one he's dropped.
Yeah.
Scoreboard.
He's won. Yeah, not a match, I suppose. He's won those Game 3s. Those ones where they've been one game from elimination twice already in the top 8.
Exactly, and Ingram really needs to keep that up.
So here we go, Game 2 on Modern. Pete Ingram starting off on Faithless Looting. Kind of setting up those fast draws out of Is It Phoenix? He was using those ones. They helped out a bunch against Jim Davis in the quarterfinals.
And that's sort of the formula to be able to steal the match, is do something to kind of knock the Tron deck a little bit off balance and then kind of kick their teeth in while they're trying to gain their bearings again.
Deciding right now if they want to actually put the Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard just yet, I think, because Relic of Progenitus is a real card that Tron plays. Sometimes you want to... We saw a game in the quarterfinals where Jim had a turn 2 Relic, but he had to pop it, and then a turn later, 2 Arclight Phoenix were dumped.
Exactly.
But looks like that will be the discard. Back Joseph, we go a Tron piece, and there's the Relic. So, a bit of a risk taken by Peter, and it looks like Joseph does have the answer.
Is that a Metamorphose off the top?
It is. He has Thing in the Ice. If he makes Thing in the Ice here, he's going to lose the Arclight Phoenix. There's a chance he can just triple spell right now and get the Arclight back.
Exactly, and he also has a Braid in his hand.
Just to take care of the Relic. That's not bad. 2 mana. He's going to just do the safe play, Thing in the Ice, deciding it's not worth it.
Right, and the thought process here is if you make Ambrosio invest the mana into cracking this Relic, you are setting the Tron deck a turn off of developing. Yeah. That's a turn that he's not getting to Sylvan Scrying or search for more Tron pieces.
Yeah. So no turn 3 Tron. It's going to be a Forest into Ancient Stirrings. Interestingly enough, even without popping the Relic, there's some value for Joseph this game. By tapping Relic, you can get 1 card of your opponent's choice. So the first choice was Sulphur Falls, but the last 2 are Arclight Phoenix and Faithless Looting. Just by tapping it, he'll get one of them.
Exactly, and that's something where this Faithless Looting, obviously very strong. Arclight Phoenix is the namesake.
A bit of a misstep here. So Joseph found Urza's Tower. I would have liked to see him main phase tap that Relic of Progenitus.
Yeah, generally speaking, you just want to use the first activated ability on Relic as soon as you have the opportunity in order to reduce the number of cards Ingram
because
has.
Of exactly what happened here. Ingram puts the Scalding Tarn in the graveyard.
Yep.
Yeah.
It may be a spot where Ambrosio feels like he's just going to be cracking it no matter what, but...
Sure.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, I mean, what I've always done as a reminder for myself is right when I untap it, I just tap it again.
Oh, yeah. I'm one to not untap it during the untap step, lean forward and flick my Relic and just say, target you.
So Manamorphose spell 1 here for Peter. And it looks like the Relic, this isn't going to matter. The Relic's going to make its play anyway. He might get to flash back that Faithless Looting, though. We'll see. So 1 spell makes blue-red. And now it's some conferring here with teammate Frank Skarren.
Ooh, if Ingram wants to be a little bit more patient, he could try and abrade the relic here, and then after that, cast Faithless Looting from his hand, and if he hits another Arclight Phoenix, he'll get to bring back the next Arclight Phoenix.
He's going to do something different. He's going to put a second Faithless Looting in the graveyard.
And this makes a lot of sense. He's just prioritizing transforming Thing in the Ice rather than trying to spike another Phoenix off the top. 7 damage is more than 3 after all.
He draws 2 Thought Scours. Does he want either of them? Or does he want both of them? Looks like he wants both. It's Abrade and Land are going away.
More than likely, he does want both of them.
Here's Thought Scour with that 2nd mana. And the priority here just looks like it's going to be Thing in the Ice. Nothing more. You know, he has 2 Thought Scours in hand. He will be able to transform it. He's going to lose the whole graveyard.
That's true.
Not so bad.
Getting in for 7 is fine, especially when you know that you're not facing down Tron on the 3rd turn.
Yeah. Now, since you know you're going to get Relicked here, he thought to himself, is there a point where you want to Thought Scour your opponent just because you don't want to exile more of your deck?
That one's a little bit closer, but targeting yourself is nice if you still have Crackling Drake in your deck.
Right, even when they're exiled, it still pumps Crackling Drake.
Right.
So, 3rd one, Awoken Horror is the transform. 2 more cards. And he'll draw into Faithless Looting, so he still has something to do after the graveyard is gone. But a 7/8 here, he says go to combat, and now Chris will clean up the graveyard.
I would like to trigger my Arclight Phoenix.
Yes, you may trigger, and I have responses. But 7 damage is in, Joseph down to 13. Draws another Urza's Tower. So right now he has Tower Mine, Chromatic Star the play. Don't know that he actually has Tron. He has a Thragtusk waiting for when he finds Tron.
Yeah, he needs to find it right now.
Yeah, 2 more attacks, right?
Exactly. Interesting that he chose not to crack either of his stars here.
So back over to Pete. You know, he had a lot of decision-making before to set up this line, but at this point, I think this game from Pete's side is pretty simple.
7.
Yeah, it's 7, go, 7, go. But, you know, it took a lot of decision to get to that point, but now he made his decision, and now he has to see if it's going to be good enough.
Go to my next turn. 7.
Yeah. Joseph filtering mana through both those Chromatic Stars. He wants redraws. He needs Tron. He needs an Urza's Power Plant, or way to find it, and he draws it. Oh, goodness.
Oh,
my gosh. It was there.
Did it.
And the first one I think it went into Ugin. He has Ugin to go with it, so...
Spell Pierce!
Spell Pierce for Peter Ingram, and he picks up the cards. That's going to counter it. The next attack is for 7.
Peter Ingram,
He's so good in the clutch.
Master. The upset master.
How many elimination games have we seen Pete Ingram claw through? Joseph, I mean, you saw on Joseph's side, you know, a lot of excitement there, you know, immediately just like, hey, I drew my 1-outer, I drew the power plant, slam it, win. You know, I don't know if he had a Wormcoil engine.
He had that Thragtusk.
He had a Thragtusk. Yeah, if he goes for the Thragtusk, he actually survives it. But just like in the excitement of hitting that 4-outer, he just like goes for it and then says, wait, oh my goodness.
What have
I done?
You can see it on him.
You can see
right
it here.
There.
It's a high-stakes situation. Now, good news for them is it's not over. They have 2 more chances to still win.
Exactly.
And it's going to start here with going back over to Legacy with Chris Minor. He took game 2. He's going to try to repeat here game number 3.
And that last game we saw from Minor was so incredibly convincing that it's hard to imagine that Minor's not just going to go ahead and lock this trophy up for them right here.
If he can play the same way, he certainly will. Steve starts on a turn 2, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now, Rubin is on a 6-card hand for this game, so he's down 2 cards. But if he can lock his opponent out, I don't know how much it matters.
Thalia is so strong here. This is a situation where we know that Minor's deck has kind of a glut of 2-drops, and so Thalia taxing those, it's almost like a time walk here for free.
2 damage, Minor down to 18. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned before that 4-Color Loam really likes having Mox Diamond every game. We're seeing a Mox Diamond list game here. But for Rubin, it's not great.
Look at that. It's a Mox Diamond.
He has to pay a mana for it. But
you know how bad we wanted one of those, Matthias.
Yeah, well, you know, now our mana works. And Chris, going to actually just go past the Mox Diamond. He's going to just cast Knight of the Reliquary. Aether Vial up to 1 for Rubin. But Knight is already a 3/3.
Yeah, we don't play One-drop Moxes.
But hold on. It was a value fight game 2, and how about this for value? Turn 4, Palace Jailer, get the Knight of the Reliquary out of there, become the Monarch, start drawing cards, undo that mulligan. This is a huge turn for Steve.
Hey, if Miner draws a Queen Marchesa, it doesn't even need to connect, and it undoes the Palace Jailer trigger.
That would just be like the game.
That would be
Oh my goodness, if he has that
world.
one of Queen Marchesa. Yeah, it would enter the battlefield, he'd immediately become the Monarch, get a Knight of the Reliquary. That'd be a pretty big turn. Does he have it?
A Johnny Vengeant?
Okay. Well, there's Nathalia, so it's still a turn away.
Ooh.
And I don't even think... Yeah, he does have a land. Mox Diamond, he'll pay a mana for it, discarding a Wasteland. Certainly don't want a Wasteland here. He does have another Knight of the Reliquary. Okay, it's a 4/4. A Johnny Vengeant, next turn. Sounds
grows.
good. But Steve's drawing extra cards. He already started last turn.
This is kind of the position that I was talking about with Knight of the Reliquary, just kind of being the biggest creature at the creature fight.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do a mana denial Richard Import game plan against an active Knight of the Reliquary. Right? They port you, just sack the land.
You know, oh no. Wait, please. Stop. Not my 7th mana. I love having 6 mana.
Now, on Rubin's side, Council's Judgment in hand. He's just picking up more cards off this Monarch. Interesting. He's going for something different. Oh, he has Swords to Plowshares. Okay. For 2 mana, Swords is away. The Knight. It's a 4-point life gain, but that's not really what it's about. Here's 4 points back, so it's a wash. Chris will stay at 15.
Right, and we're just seeing Rubin prioritizing this Rashadan port.
Yeah. This Monarch token, this Palace Jailer, again, coming through huge for Rubin.
Absolutely. This is just such a powerful mechanic.
Liliana of the Veil to draw for Chris, but I don't know that he has the extra mana. So it's just Scavenging Ooze that he can make. Now, looking at graveyards, we have removal that exiles, but that's about it. It's just a 2/2, and neither Relic and Stoneforge Mystic Violed in. Steve is using these cards to really good value, and they're helping him pull ahead.
Exactly. You know, here, I want you to imagine creatures in the graveyard. And notice how that's only in your imagination and not in real life. This Scavenging Ooze at this point, what do you want to do? Trade with a Palace Jailer? That's not realistic. And at this
my
point,
second Scavenging Ooze will be happy about that.
We're likely seeing a sword of some sort, either one from Betrayers of Kamigawa or Darksteel coming.
Yeah. Sword of Fire and Ice.
This just locks up the Scavenging Ooze dying one way or another.
Right, it's that 2 damage for when a creature connects. There are cards that play in Chris Miner's hand. He has Assassin's Trophy, Liliana of the Veil, another Liliana of the Veil. But that because it was an end-step Stoneforge Mystic, the mana's not there. Steve is going to get to connect here.
Right, this is an uncomfortable spot where they play, but they don't get cast.
Right, so they don't cost more. Stoneforge Mystic can put them to play. The mana is there to do it, and Stoneforge will do just that. Sword of Fire and Ice. He can equip. He has a Wasteland in his hand. Yeah, this is huge. Here's the sword. It's going to equip. I mean, Chris is going to chump block it, right? Because it's dead anyway. So.
Exactly. You can't let Rubin draw 2 extra cards this turn.
Just doesn't matter. Thalia will pick up the sword. She swings in for 4. Palace Jailer will join on in because that can't be blocked here. Actually, Chris is thinking about blocking the Jailer.
Yeah, at that point you might as well.
I guess if he's just going to grind through the game with Liliana of the Veil, you have to start somewhere. So
you have to think to yourself, do you think this Palace Jailer or a random card is more powerful? And if the way you win this game is thinking that Rubin just draws a bunch of lands in a row, you just need to get stuff out of the way.
So Palace Jailer still on the board here. As Scavenging Ooze kind of just jumped in the way. Right, so a bit of a misstep for Chris. So because Thalia has First Strike, the reason it didn't trade is First Strike triggered the Sword of Fire and Ice, and the 2 damage shot the Scavenging Ooze down before damage. You forget about these like limited abilities, right? Things like First Strike, and it is a misstep. So Steve I think it was just the wrong block there, and he pays the price for it. Council's Judgment on 4 mana. This is just rude. It's going for the Mox Diamond. You see Wasteland and Port at the ready. Thalia in play. Chris is not going to get to cast spells. And I said they had 2 chances. I think they're going to need the second one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is over.
Yeah, it's a swing here for 5. Chris down to 6. You port his 1 land here. He can't really cast anything. And yeah, extending the hand. So Steve Rubin dropped that second game, but he keeps things alive. He takes care of business. And for the 3rd straight round, it comes down to Pete Ingram's game 3.
All right, Pete.
Can he do it? All 3 for 3.
Can he be 3 Pete?
Oh, it would be nice. He has been in this situation. Was able to capitalize on a mistake there in game number 2. He took a really good line where he kind of shoved all his chips onto one play into a thing in the ice.
And it worked.
And it worked.
That's how you win those games. It's not about your cards are not more powerful than Tron's. You just have to kill them. And he thought, you know what? This is the fastest clock I have.
Right.
Let's get to it.
Once these things start happening, once Tron starts doing Tron things, it's not going to matter.
Exactly. Ooh, especially if you spell Pierce and Ugin.
What a spell. That was true.
Too soon.
No,
Too
I know.
Soon.
He had 1 card in hand, 1 mana. The Ugin was a game-winning Ugin. Let's not.
One
it was
shot,
nothing less.
1 opportunity.
Oh, that's like Vivian, isn't it? What does she say when you shoot things with an arrow? 1 thing, 1 shot. Oh, were you quoting? I thought you were quoting Arena.
No, I was quoting 90s American philosopher Marshall Mathers.
Well, I was close.
Mom spaghetti.
Does Marshall Mathers play Magic Arena? I guess.
No.
Or Chandelar?
In the next stanza of his writings, he actually said no more games, unfortunately. He doesn't play very much at all.
Wow. Well, he's not invited to this finals.
Yeah, he's gonna blow the roof off. He was kidding in the beginning. The mood all changed.
So back for game 3. Ambrosio has gone to Thragtusks here. It's actually a card I really like in the matchup because of how it interacts with Thing in the Ice.
It's so good against Thing in the Ice. It buys you so much time. It is
they
5 life,
yeah.
which is most of an Awoken Horror attack. And then if they bounce it, that's a chump block, which is an Awoken Horror attack. And then you cast the Thragtusk again, which is almost another Thing in the Ice, or Awoken Horror attack. And then you chump, and it's a Thing in the Ice attack. And then you still have a token.
And then you Ulamog them, because, we drew cards.
It's like 5 turns of Awoken Horror attacking undone by 1 card.
Yeah, it's really
Also,
it's
it can
nice.
be proactive if they don't happen to have the Awoken Horror.
Or if you can take 1 hit off the Awoken Horror, the 5/3 rejoins the 3/3, and you actually just win the combat. You can trade.
Exactly. And then you still have a 3/3 left over.
I would think Tactusk's is an interesting one, right? Because when you have turn 3 Tron, you just can't really cast it. I mean, you can if you like set up a star, but it's like this weird 5-minute card that requires you to have a forest, but you don't want a forest. But like you'll take one.
Oh, you get to go for the best kind of Tron BM, where you go turn 1, mine star, turn 2, tower, go.
Oh, turn 3 just crack a Thragtusk.
Turn 4, tap for 1 mana, crack for a green. Draw your top card, don't look at it. Play the 3rd Tron piece from your hand. Make 5 Thragtusk them.
Yeah, a lot of times when decks are attacking your mana, Thragtusk is really powerful here. If there's a Blood Moon in play, which Pete does have in the sideboard,
right,
he'll just Thragtusk and it's fine.
Right, that's the draw to these mono-green Tron decks, is you just have a ton of basic forests, and between Oblivion Stone and Thragtusk, you can just play a heads-up game through a Blood Moon if the Phoenix deck doesn't threaten you.
Both players on 7 here for the 3rd game. It is Tower into Expedition map for Ambrosio, and there's a power plant in his hand, so we did it.
This is the draw.
The ever so difficult turn 3 Tron. He has a Grafdigger's Cage as well in hand in case. He right now doesn't have a window to take a turn off to do it, but see power plant and a pass.
And the thing that looks like Ambrosio is missing here is the payoff card.
Right. Yes, we see Relic, Star, Sylvan Scrying, Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, there actually is no payoff just yet.
The nice thing is he does have the star, so he can, say, Sylvan Scrying for a forest to make sure that if he bricks on his turn 3 payoff card and then Ingram has a Blood Moon, Ambrosio gets to keep playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, actually. So you'll get then the mine with the expedition map, but you might not... Was it to do that? Okay, no, you can just play the star. Otherwise, I guess you'd have to, like, map for the forest and scrying for the Tron piece.
Yeah, no, that's not particularly reasonable. You just want to get your Tron piece, play it, star into green, and then if you brick on your payoff card, just go ahead and scrying for your forest.
So what you're actually supposed to do is just draw the card this turn.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
right.
that's how you make the finals with Tron. We know it's coming. We've seen this before.
You know, you could draw the O-Stone, that'd be okay, or the Worm Coil Engine, or there's a lot of cards you could draw.
Honestly,
that'd be nice.
even Thragtusk.
Sure, that seems great.
Can't quite do the power move we discussed earlier, but you do end up with a Thragtusk, so it kind of washes.
Shields are down, Thing in the Ice from Pete Ingram on the second turn.
And
so
you just have to make him have it. You know, Tron does have a fail rate, and you need to kill him while exploiting that fail rate, and that's what we saw Ingram do last game, and he's hoping he can do it again here.
I'm going to say they don't always have the Karn, but they always have the Karn. I don't know. When I play against it, they always have the Karn. Draw. It is an expedition map, so he is missing the payoff. He has the 7 mana, but what is he going to do with it?
Okay, so now he gets a chance to turn this chromatic star into something.
Yeah, he's going to make expedition map. I feel like he's got to get Grafdigger's Cage down now. You know, if he doesn't have the big payoff, like, he doesn't want a big transform double Phoenix turn out of Skarren.
Right,
or
right.
Ingram. Yeah, so he makes all... Yeah, he's just going to cast everything. Here's Relic, here's Cage, here's Star, here's Map. Here's 3 more mana. Last cards, though, a Sylvan Scrying and one other.
I believe it's an Ancient Stirrings.
Well, that one's really good, actually. That should find him the
very
payoff. Good. And 3 mana. Is it Blood Moon? It is. All right, back to playing fair. Just 3 mana for you now.
It's time to crack map in response.
Fair, right? While the tower still taps for 3.
Exactly.
And you go get Forest here, right?
Yes.
All right, still playing Magic, it's Joe Ambrosio.
And at this point, you know, 4 lands is not that far away from just cracking an Oblivion Stone. You have a redraw from this Relic of Progenitus and the Chromatic Star, or is it Chromatic Sphere?
It's a sphere, but, like, let's look at this even more.
That's 2 more looks, and you don't need to prioritize the Relic as heavily anymore since Cage is checking the Phoenixes.
I'm going to go even slower. You can draw no stone. You don't even need to crack it yet.
Exactly. You just get to stare.
You know, there's a Relic that's doing some work. Well, okay, that one's gone now. But there's a Cage in play. I don't really want to blow up that. Ugin. Okay.
Ah, my good friend Eugene.
Eugene the Spirit Dragon. He would have had 8 mana.
Perhaps you've met my associate Eugene. his nature's claim.
All right, so he gets the mana back right away. 4 life over to Pete. The mana freed up again. So he has 1 colorless floating. So this is
I don't
7.
believe he does. That only tapped for 1 mana under the Blood
You're
Moon.
right. Okay, he has nothing floating. So this is 6 here. He can't make the Planeswalker just yet. He'll have to take a turn off doing something else ridiculous. Like maybe a Ballista on 3. Or Sylvan Scrying. I don't know. There's a lot of options here, to be fair.
It's uncomfortable. You don't really want to Ballista on 3 when there's a Thing in the Ice in play. You would much rather wait to do it for 4, especially since Ingram didn't just immediately transform it the turn previous.
So Sylvan Scrying finds Sanctum of Ugin. Next turn is a huge turn. He's setting up to play Sanctum, cast Ugin, crack Sanctum, find something else. It would be a really difficult turn for Peter to get through.
Exactly. And you could even at that point just get Worm Coil Engine, which blocks Awoken Horror very well. Or if you draw another Tron piece, get Nulamog.
So Walking Ballista, there was 1 mana floating plus the tower. That was the last play for Ambrosio.
All right, Manamorphose, it's go time.
Okay, here we go. Manamorphose to start from Pete Ingram. Now remember, there is a Grafdigger's Cage in place, so it's just... There's a ceiling on how good this turn can be.
It could be only 7 damage.
I don't know if 7 damage is enough here. That's a real concern.
That's a good point.
3 mana Morphos, so this is reasonable.
3.
You know.
3 mana Morphos.
We have the 4th one. just transform it. It's got some Arclight Phoenix, but you need to cast them at this point. Here's Faithless Looting.
This is a spot where you want to discard it and maybe get lucky to try and spike in a Braid on the Grafdigger's Cage.
That would be pretty big. Even if Ingram has all of that, there's an Ugin in Joseph's hand. It will clean all of it up.
The best draw here is if Ingram can find his other copy of Blood Moon off the top. He has not made a land drop yet, and he has a blue mana in his pool. So if he, say, hits a Blood Moon, plays a land, and then casts the Blood Moon and attacks for 7, if we're being honest, Ambrosio's in a pretty tough spot.
So, okay. So here's Faithless Looting. It draws into Snapcaster Mage and Lightning Bolt, so not that. What did happen there is you saw with the last trigger on the stack, Joseph shot the Walking Ballista down to 1 to Pete and then picked it up and put it into his hand.
It's just good value.
It's just free damage. Now we're resolving the Faithless Looting. Ingram didn't really find the slam dunk he was looking for. I mean, he's got this 7/8, and that's nothing to sneeze at.
At this point, he's likely going to be turning a cantrip into hopefully a counter spell, since he has this blue mana in his pool.
Yeah, and Ingram does not have Ceremonious Rejection or anything as powerful as that.
No, he has Disdainful Stroke. But other than that, he would need to make a land in order to play it.
Yeah, 2 Spell Pierce are the counter spells he's working with. The other ones he registered today were Dispel. Can't really assume he'll board that one in.
Oh, you're right. He doesn't have the strokes.
Yeah. Back to Joseph. We go. This is the turn he'd set up before. Play that Sanctum Ugin he tutored up.
Well, it's time.
He actually drew Thragtusk. He's thinking about Thragtusking instead. I guess he's really respecting Spell Pierce, isn't he?
Oh, we're not doing that 2 games.
It's almost like
you
Spell
saw that
Pierce happened.
You saw the
game.
look in his face.
And
he's not doing no.
Love it. Thragtusk is fine here. Gains 5, and now he'll replay the Ballista on 2. Up to 18 for Joseph. Yeah, he'll wait until he has 9 mana for that Ugin.
And this is just trying to cover bases a little bit by playing this Ballista here. Ambrosio knows that he is in the spot to win this game. He's just trying to not let Ingram put him in a position to punk him out.
So, Ingram bolts the Ballista in response, 2 damage thrown upstairs. And you're going to see some fair Is It Phoenix here. I think we're just going to start seeing those, as you like to say, the Snare Thopters, just the 3/2 birds being cast as is. Now, that's going to be a game plan for Pete. But here's the issue I'm seeing. The only thing that's stopping Joseph from winning with Ugin right now is the bluff or the threat of a Spell Pierce. At some point... Did he draw it? He actually has. I was going to say, at some point he's going to call Peter on it, and he actually has to have it, right? Because it'll still win. And the joke is he didn't have it, but now he actually does.
Oh, my gosh.
So Ingram going to... Oh, my goodness. Ingram is going to do it again. An attack in Thragtusk blocks. You're making the 3/3. Hold on.
There's no way this happens again. There's no way.
We should confirm that there is a 3/3. Okay, there is. We have the 3/3s made.
Todd Anderson finding his way into the coverage of this finals.
This is so gross. If now he finally jams into the Ugin and gets his Spell Pierced, it's just going to be the saddest. Okay, Ancient Stirrings. Great. Okay,
this is a start.
If it finds a Tron piece, he can safely and confidently cast this Ugin.
Ooh, Oblivion Stone is nice.
There's an Oblivion Stone. There's also a Ulamog. But I guess he doesn't have the mana for Ulamog. Oblivion Stone is just the safe choice here.
Is that Ghost Quarter?
That's a one that brings him up to 9 mana. Then they bring him up to 10. That would mean Ghost Quarter mean next turn he can safely Ugin with Spell Pierce backup. Right, like, Oblivion Stone's okay here, but it is a little scary because that Grafdigger's cage is... Yeah, and the cage is doing a lot of work.
Right.
His teammates here, you see, they're actually pointing at... They're thinking about taking the Ghost Quarter. That or the Ulamog appear to be the choices. For Ulamog, you'd have to draw a Tron piece to cast it. Now, if you do, you'll probably win.
Right, you don't
Ulamog's
even necessarily need an Ulamog. You just need a land. We have 9 mana currently.
Right. And they take the Ghost Quarter. It's really safe.
This is great. This is a fantastic show of patience.
Right, because now the Spell Pierce, next turn he'll have 10 mana. The Ugin will be Spell Pierce proof. It's good patience.
Ooh, he's just jamming.
Oh no, and he's jamming it, and Pete has the Spell Pierce. He picked it up last turn. If you're going to get the Ghost Quarter there, you actually have to respect the Spell Pierce. And yeah, he's going to do it. The second game in a row. Ugin is down.
He didn't crack Sanctum of Ugin.
He didn't crack Sanctum of Ugin.
Oh, he has an Ulamog in his hand.
Oh, okay. That's why he's not cracking
Ulamog.
Sanctum. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Arclight Phoenix for Ingram. A swing here is for 12. Joseph going to take 10 of it, go to 8. But wait, he has the 10 mana. Tron is going to do the Tron is about to do Tron things.
This is one hungry Ulamog.
The ceaseless hunger here. And you know, Pete knows what's happening. He's tapping, hey, should I attack with my 3/3? Like, oh, yeah, we know what that means. It's Ulamog coming up. And here is the 10 mana Eldrazi, exiling both creatures.
Targets, I'll give you one guess, Pete.
And a swing of the 3/3. You know, the Sanctum of Ugin trigger missed there, but I don't know that it's going to matter. As Pete takes the 3 damage, down to 14. He does not have many turns left.
Oh, he actually had the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, oh yeah, he had he had the second Spell Pierce.
Yes.
Faithless Looting. Yeah, I mean, Spell Pierce is going to be great here. That just doesn't work against... Nothing works against Ulamog. Like, your plan against Ulamog is to win first. It's not let this happen. He discards Surgical Extraction and land. He just has Spell Pierce. That's not going to do it. And you see from Joseph Ambrosio, a swing of 13. He's going to mill 20. Peter is down to 1. If there's a way for him to deal 8, I don't know what it is, but he's going to take a look.
That one's tough. I don't know how he does it.
20 cards there, off into exile. One more draw. They have come down to these game 3s for Ingram in the semifinals, in the quarterfinals. But right now, he might not be able to repeat that magic a third time, as Joseph Ambrosio has taken a huge lead here. Pete is down to 1 on this attack. Lost most of his library.
Counting out the threats in his deck, just trying to figure out what his outs are at this point.
Remember, can't flashback those Faithless Lootings because of Grafdigger's Cage. It's really just the top card. If he can maybe chain some cantrips chain some cantrips into an Abrade at the end of the cantrip line, he might have enough Phoenixes to win. But he does not. There's the handshake. Cannot happen a third time. Oh. And for the upset, the 1 seed goes down in the finals, and we have our champions. It is the team of Joseph Ambrosio, Freddie Crespo Jr., and Chris Miner, winning in Modern, winning in Standard.